Coming up on this week's episode of the AVB Podcast, we're going to sit down with the front man from Years of Ernest, Mr. Andrew MacLeod. Really incredible dude, super awesome family history, part of kind of Canadian literature royalty, if you were. Be sure to check out that interview, but first do me a favor and swing on over and go visit these guys, the people next door here. They help us put this all together. They've got links down below. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you click on the subscribe button so that you see everything that we do each and every week. You can click on the bell to make sure you get those notifications. Check out our sponsors, like, subscribe, all of that regular stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Andrew MacLeod. We have found our way to Liquid Library here on, Windsor's University District. Hanging out here talking with my good friend, Mr. Andrew MacLeod. How's it going, dude?
Friend, it's going well. It's going well.
So, on my way over here, I never sort of prepare how these things are going to start, but on my way over here, I was remembering my first sort of like, the first time I knew who you were and like had a piece of you kind of locked into my mind.
Okay. Sorry in advance.
Yeah, that's kind of where it's going. But you know what? It's funny because I think it'll say a lot about who you are in general. So here was the deal. A couple of years ago, there was a comedy show here in Windsor, and I ended up getting connected with some of the people or whatever. And at the end of the night, I invited all of the comedians down to this open jam down at TBX. And one of the comedians got up on stage.
Oh, this is an awful way to start this. I know where this is going.
One of the comedians got up on stage and decided to do her thing, and she started doing her thing, and her thing is very racially motivated. She's a black woman. Actually, I love her. I love her stuff. You, however, did not. Do you remember the night I'm talking about?
I really do.
Yeah?
I really do remember.
Do you want to tell your perspective of it, or maybe no?
Well, I mean, I think it does. I think generally I'm pretty sure of where I stand, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's been a double-edged sword for my entire life. That particular night, the comedian in question, I thought it was just, and again, perhaps not my place to judge someone else's material.
Right.
It just seemed like low-hanging fruit to me. And then she kind of went at the way comedians do, and this is not shining the best light on me, but the way comedians do kind of was going at people in the audience.
Right.
And she kind of went at a person who I consider to be in my camp and who is kind of a sensitive, delicate individual.
And you got defensive.
And I got defensive for my person that's in my camp.
But you know what? And this is the thing. This is why I bring it up. And this is why I was sort of like, I don't know if this is the way we're going to start. Because the thing is that it wasn't the greatest moment. And I knew that happening at the time. And I think I understand even afterwards that reflecting on it, you might have not have thought the best of yourself in that light. But what it does talk about is what I've come to know about you since then is it does speak very much about the kind of person that you are, because once you decide that this is where you are, you very much don't care about anything else around you, right? And I mean that as a compliment. I very much do. And I understand that it may not always be the best circumstances, but is that something you've like developed or?
It's something I developed. I used to joke around and say about my very old dog that we have aged in perfect parallel with each other, that we both used to be nicer,
right,
and we both used to look better and move around with a little more ease than we do at present. Right. But I do think it is conscious. I think it's important to stand up for the things that you believe in and stand against the things you don't believe in. And it's never really bothered me being accepted by others because I've been blessed with a very loyal and good group of friends. I've been surrounded with musicians who get what I do for my whole life. Yeah. And I think because of that, I've been kind of galvanized by the support system I have. Now the credit or discredit. The discredit, I would say, goes to me. And the credit, when it works out, I would say goes to the base of friends and collaborators that I've been fortunate enough to meet. So, like, my idea of rock and roll and our band's idea of rock and roll is not always cuddly.
Yeah.
I think it's important for rock and roll to be a force of resistance. Josh Homme, Queens of the Stone Age, these are the people that I look up to. So kicking the door in and telling somebody what's up, it kind of goes hand in hand with what rock and roll is to me now. I never want to be insensitive. I never want to be mean, but I often am comfortable taking the role as defender.
I hear that. That's funny. You have your personal history is really interesting, the little bits that I know about it, but also your family background and your family history is kind of a big deal for you, right?
Yeah, it's a big deal for more. It's definitely a big deal for me.
Yeah.
But my dad and my brother and my siblings have kind of been able to make artistic contact with the world beyond this city.
Explain to people what your heritage and actually that's how we normally start these podcasts anyway. So tell me about the house that you grew up in, the family that you grew up in.
My parents had 7 children. I'm the youngest.
See, that I didn't know. That makes some shit even more interesting to me. Okay, all right, go ahead.
It was all boys and 1 girl, so we were very competitive home.
Right.
One where the arts was always encouraged, athletics were always encouraged. So my brothers and
simultaneously, really, that's unusual.
Yeah, a lot of us took music. Like I played basketball very seriously. My brothers were very serious runners, and we're all kind of engaged in the arts community as well. So my father taught at the University of Windsor and was a world-renowned author, Alistair MacLeod. My mother was a teacher, and then when the kids started coming, she stayed home, and that was a full-time job. But we always were enrolled in music classes, and I had a strict and regimented home.
Oh yeah. Tell me about it, because that's got to be interesting growing up with like 7 siblings in a house that's artists and sports people.
Yeah, it was. Excellence was expected.
Oh, okay.
Excellence was expected, and if you came home with A's on your report card, you didn't get like money to go to the store and get a treat. It was just like, yeah, yeah, you did. Now tomorrow, do the same.
Right.
Like, approach everything with an idea that you're supposed to tackle it with your best efforts. And did that show results?
Did that follow all the way down to you being the youngest?
Oh yeah, I felt enormous pressure.
Yeah,
I felt enormous.
Because usually it's the other way, right? Like usually by the time you get to like the third one, you kind of like.
I mean, I think I learned a lot of what I know from the pack more than my parents really. Okay. But by the time I was around, the pack kind of was instructing me where to move, how to do it.
It's so interesting to me that you refer to them as the pack.
I definitely do.
Is that a thing? Like, is that a thing that the whole family does, or is that just your viewpoint on it?
I don't know if I've ever actually referred to the group like that, but I learned what good music was because my older siblings had it slipping under their walls and into my bedroom, you know?
Right.
Like, everything I know about being a frontman, I definitely learned and stole from my brother Kenneth, who has been active in this scene forever. Everything more technical that I know about hitting good harmonies, I learned from my sister Marion. I owe a great deal to my siblings, and it wasn't always comfortable.
Right.
And they weren't always the most supportive of my music. But what that's done today is kind of, there's an armor there that few people can touch because my siblings already ripped me apart growing up. But I'm not upset now. I appreciate it, and it made me more resilient. So,
tell me that experience, because your dad, like you said, your dad's a world-renowned author.
Yeah.
When he was kind of going through those motions in his career, was that, like, were you around for all of that? Did you see that part of it, or was that kind of afterwards?
It was kind of right as I was approaching adulthood and out of adolescence. Like, my father spent most of his time being a dad and being a university professor. So the art kind of came second to his job as father and provider. Like we didn't eat every day on Dad's royalty checks.
Okay.
We ate on the check he earned at the university as a professor.
Okay, I see.
And then having that many kids, like he tied a lot of skates. So he was a full-time dad. And then when he would get the summers off, we would go to Cape Breton, which is where I was born and where our family heritage is from.
How long did you live in Cape Breton for?
It's been kind of on and off my entire life.
Just been back and forth?
Yeah, we would always spend a significant part of the year there. Summer times when my dad would get off. Every summer of my life has been spent there.
Okay. So it really has been half of your life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like when I was once married, half of my wedding party had never really met the other half.
Okay.
But they had both been my friends for my entire life.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Just a country apart. But in the summer, my dad and my mom had an arrangement that from 8 to 12, he could go to this little writing shack he had, and he could create from 8 to 12 every day. And then at noon, it was like, get your ass back here. All hands on deck. There are kids everywhere.
That's brilliant, though.
So when my dad wrote his most critically acclaimed and award-winning novel, it took 13 years. So everybody was saying, oh, Alice MacLeod, the tortoise of the literary world. But they didn't understand that there was a lot more going on. So when I was 18, my father won the richest literary award there is in the world, the Dublin Literary Impact Award.
Wow.
And I was kind of 18 to kind of see all his life's work.
That's like perfect
come together in this culminating moment. It was really cool. And then he flew us all to Ireland. And it was kind of in the latter part of my father's life that he always found success in everything he produced. Yeah. But it was kind of in the later years that it really poured on as something significant.
How much, how long was it from that time until he passed?
Ooh, he probably 15 years.
Oh, so like it wasn't like hey, and then
he passed. No, he was he traveled a lot after he retired from the University of Windsor. Yeah. Strictly speaking about his creative endeavors. So.
Did you get to be part of all of that, or?
Yeah, it was part of. I went to a lot of readings and I saw a lot of people praise and adore my father's work, and it was really, really cool. I think especially because of the timing of it. And as I get older, as a person who creates, you kind of have to remind yourself that there's no end to this. Mm-hmm. That if you're doing it, and just as we were saying before we were rolling here, if you have a singular focus as to why you're doing it and why it's important, then you just put your head down and you just keep doing it for that reason. Mm-hmm. And then to see it, like I'm sure while he was tying all those skates and wiping all those noises, there were times where he was like, if I could just get a second to create my own damn stuff. Right. This would be better. Right. I would feel more sane. But he just kept doing his dad duties, and then eventually it paid off.
I wonder, and maybe this is a sensitive question. If it is, I apologize. But I wonder, because of the way you sort of described your family, I wonder if that part of it wasn't just as important to him.
Ooh, if what?
The family, like tying the skates was just as important.
Far more important.
Okay.
Far more important.
So then do you think there was really that much time when he was regretting?
I just think, like anything that is stressful.
Oh, gotcha.
When you're in it, even if you know it's important, if it's stressful, you're kind of like, why am I packing up all my stuff to go to the Liquid Library when I played last night until 3 and I got 4 hours sleep? Even if you love it. Yeah. Even if you love it. Yeah. Sometimes you're kind of like, oh, if I could just.
Oh, that's for sure. The nice thing is, though, like, the most interesting part of it to me is because, and I mean, we haven't even gotten into your specific history and your music and stuff. I think most of the people who are watching this kind of already are aware of who you are. But like, what is most interesting to me is that you are a guy who locally is looked at as a top-level artist, top-level musician, a guy who's very well respected with the musicians in a music town. Mm-hmm. That, to me, that says a lot. And I wonder how much of that and how much reflection you've done on that about your origin story and having that example set in front of you of what like the highest level of professional art is?
I think it's everything. I think it's everything. I think anything that I do well is because of the family that I was brought up surrounded by, because of my parents, because of my siblings, and because of lessons that were sometimes tough and not always not necessarily a soft place to land.
Right.
Like, I don't really roll that way. I think the things that toughen you up are the things that are most important. To just keep yourself plugging away. Just things that keep you motivated to create kind of come from within, I think. And I learned that from my siblings.
Are those conversations you had, or is that just stuff that you picked up along the way?
These are conversations I've had kind of dysfunctionally with my siblings over the years. And then they kind of were like, let it go, man. Like, let it go. I know we told everybody your music sucked when you're 18, but it's not that bad now.
That's hilarious.
So
funny.
I'm always teasing them. I'm like, you guys pat yourselves on the back for not supporting me. You're like, that's exactly what he needed, for us to be jerks, for 5 years, and now look at him, his music is pretty good.
But do you buy into that? Do you buy into that, like that hard edge, sharpened stone kind of, like sharpened edge, hard, you know?
I think if you're only ever a short-tempered dick, you're not going to find many meaningful relationships.
Holy fuck, is that
right? But I think if you do the work the rest of the time to make people feel important, I think more often when I have one of those episodes, my friends kind of laugh. Like, my friends who are in the family are like, no, it's never for nothing. It's never, like, I don't just, like, flip out. It's usually guided or misguided that I feel like I'm defending something.
There's some goddamn motivation behind it, at least.
I feel like it's...
I'm not just randomly yelling on the street corners.
I feel like it's...
purpose, damn it.
I feel like it's, principle based. So, like, as I said to you before, as soon as I have no gigs and no friends, maybe I'll have to redefine my approach. But until that moment,
until then, you're okay with it?
I'm happy with my relationships and my gigs.
I know your work as a musician, as a writer, has been really important to you. You're also clearly self-aware, like as a human being, which is a thing that I can't say about everybody. Do you spend how much, or I assume you spend some time, how much time do you spend working on yourself as a person versus working on yourself as an artist, and do you even think that that's a separate thing?
I think a lot of the work I do on myself as a person comes through the work I put into my art.
Okay,
my music,
explain that.
A lot of times, for me to look at myself, I have to sit down and think about something that happened, or start writing, or even if it doesn't amount to a song, sometimes I'll just scribble away just to figure out what the hell I'm doing, or what I did yesterday, or what am I doing tomorrow. And it is really important for me to be a balanced, aware, like, I have no delusions about myself, and I think being a writer helps me come to grips or at peace with that. Like, a lot of my songs are pretty clearly about some mission of self-discovery or self-improvement, which makes it kind of embarrassing to say that I spend a lot of time refining my approach, and I still have these like flip outs. But yeah, art has, I always say, cheaper than therapy. Why do I play music? Cheaper than therapy.
Right.
Like, it helps me work out the things that I would like to polish down or sand down about myself.
It's interesting because, and I don't mean to turn this around about me, but I've found myself thinking about art and the shit that I do very much in the same way lately. Like, it's stopped for a long time as an artist for me. it was about creating something that, I don't know, like, you never think about it this way, but in retrospect, what it really is like trying to create something that like somebody's going to point at and go, oh, okay, you are good. Like you're a good person. Like this is what makes you worth like being alive. And that doesn't fucking exist, because that is where that comes from at all. It takes a long time to figure that out.
Yeah.
Did you spend any time thinking about it that way, or was it?
I think I've always just felt the need to write.
Okay.
And I think because of my background with athletics, I really value and lean on team dynamics.
Okay.
So if Lee thought my songs were shit, he wouldn't play with me.
Right.
Joey's a beast of a drummer. Brad's a beast of a player. Our team, we deal with our own house. We deal with our own house.
Right.
And nothing outside of that house matters until we can't get any gigs.
Right.
You know, but for us, I look at Joey, and if Joey says, Andy, you're full of shit today, then I change it because his voice matters to me.
Okay.
And for us, we are just a democratic team of a band, and nothing outside of our house, nothing gets in. It doesn't affect the way we do things, the outside noise or appreciation, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We have decided that the way we operate is Years of Ernest in-house. And if something doesn't work in-house, then we'll change it. But,
right. Until
but for us, we spent so much time like smelling each other's feet in vans and sharing beds and, you know.
How much touring have you guys done? Because you've been around. Let's for those who may not know you and Years of Ernest, and first of all, you will be seeing this interview after we release the performance video, so go check that out. We'll put a link or something up. Give a little background to Years of Ernest. How did it all come together? How did it get started?
I was living in Halifax. I had dropped out of university, and I went to live in Halifax and play in a band there for 4 years. And then that band kind of dissolved, and I came back to Windsor, and I was playing just acoustically, trying to find my way. Got a gig hosting open mic at the BH that I hosted for 10 years. And then just slowly through playing in the scene, some mutual friends, Lee and I got together. Paul Lonke, who was our one-time bass player, played in the Locust, Have No King. He and I started playing together. And Joey was in the Locust, and bit by bit, it kind of started to come together. And I had all these acoustic songs that I had written, and the boys just kind of jumped on, and we recorded right away. So that first record was called The Crooked Storyline. I guess that's 9 years ago, maybe. Wow. 8 or 9 years ago.
Did you tour it?
Yep. We did pretty heavily on the East Coast because that's where I had lots of connections. And the next year we went a little bit further, branching out, played more shows in New Brunswick and PEI, and been across East. We've been twice Years of Ernest has gone out, and every time I go out, I try to represent our songs. And now we have a third record in the works, and the plan is to promote it and tour behind it this summer again.
What's the work behind putting the tour together for you guys? You do it all yourself?
It's gotten easier. Yeah. It's gotten easier over the years because the connections have increased or strengthened, or however you look at that. The East Coast has always been magnetic, I guess, like because we have places to crash and better venues. The West always seems a bit more daunting to me, so we always kind of migrate.
It's so funny because I'm doing some work right now, and all my travel has been the opposite. I've only ever gone out west, and I always thought it's so stupid because why haven't I gone out east? All of that's closer. And then I did the route, and I went, oh no, we're in the middle of the fucking country. I had no idea.
Yeah,
you look at a map, I feel like we're on this side of the country, but we're very much not.
Yeah, it's still from door to door. Here to Cape Breton is a 22-hour drive. Yeah. You know, I had a friend once. I was in Cape Breton, and he came to visit. He's like, I just crossed over New Brunswick. I'm going to be there any minute. I was like, bro, you got 8 hours of driving. You got 8 hours of driving ahead of you. But hitting the road gets harder as my drummer, Joe, now has a family. Lee has a budding family. You know, it's not
Arranging it gets harder.
It gets harder. Just the logistics of it gets harder, but we'll be doing it until we're dead.
Yeah, that's great.
We'll be doing it until we're dead. So
when you guys get into a room, because you say you keep everything in house, when you guys get into a room, what's a writing process like for you guys?
I still start by myself.
Yeah.
With the skeleton of a song, basic chord progression, some sense of melody, and some scratch lyrics or something. But more and more, I feel less and less pressure to do anything beyond that because I trust the boys so much.
Right.
And with the addition of Brad, he's got a great ear and a great mind for taking things from okay, because my progressions tend to be pretty simple, and Brad can kind of take us, or they all get together and they say, okay, here's what we're doing for the bridge, though, to take it from here to someplace new. So I'd say the writing process starts with me in a room by myself. Mm-hmm. I get a song, say 70% done, and I bring it to the boys, and we all sit around and kind of workshop it.
When you're done at the end of the day, is it an Andrew MacLeod song, or is it a Years of Ernest song?
It's definitely not an Andrew MacLeod song.
Okay.
It's definitely, the way all of our songs are credited on the record is lyrics by Andrew MacLeod, all songs written, arranged, and produced by Years of Ernest. Okay. Right? If I wanted to be Andrew MacLeod and the blah blah blahs, my music career would be much shittier.
That's hilarious. That's funny.
I've always thought it was important to not separate yourself, not for appearances, but because in truth I need them. I need those guys in more ways than one to make the things that matter to me. To create music that matters to me, I can't do it without them. So yeah, we're Years of Ernest. We're Years of Ernest. Great. Although I write all the lyrics and the melodies and things like that, it's not that simple.
Yeah. No. I totally get it. A lot for the Dirty River Band, the process was pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I'd piece it all together at the beginning, bring it to them, and then they'd make it fucking music.
Yeah.
Right? Is how I always referred to it.
Yeah.
I wonder, because of your dad and watching him, because you said you watched him write over 13 years. And I'm guessing a good chunk of that wasn't the writing process. It was the polishing process more than anything.
Well, he was kind of a freak in that he didn't revise at all.
Really?
He used to say he only had one draft of everything he ever wrote, which is...
Oh, that makes me so happy. I thought I was just a piece of shit.
He said he would just pour over one sentence until it was perfect. He would write one sentence, and then he would think of the next one and scratch it out. Think of the next one and scratch it up. But by the time,
so he did revise, but he revised on the fly.
By the time he got to the end, that last sentence was the last sentence.
It was done. Okay. Do you use any of that process in the way you work? Did you take anything from your dad in your work process?
I learned a lot from my dad about what it means to be a creative person and what it means to do things deliberately.
Okay.
By the time a song hits the world, I won't be changing it. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's not like, oh, we might change that bridge. Very seldomly. By the time it gets out,
you're done.
I'm ready for it to be done. Now it's for you. Before it was for me, and now I'm ready to give it to you guys and see what you think. My dad used to say, writing is you're just writing letters to the world. Okay. You're writing letters to the world, and you're hoping that they respond.
Right.
And I think that music is very communicative. I think if you want to write for yourself, then you keep your journal on your bedside table. Yeah. If you want to play for yourself, then you just sit in your basement and you play. But once you decide to do what we do, if you don't think, I know it might seem contradictory to say everything we do is in-house, and then to say that they matter so much, but I stand by it. I think by the time we have settled on it in-house, then we give it to the world. It's not like people don't matter at all to what we do.
Right.
It's just by the time we give it.
I think it's two separate processes, right? The idea of creating the music can never be about the audience, but presenting it always has to be.
Yeah, if you're never thinking of other people, period, your life and your work will be shit.
Right. That's brilliant, actually. That's that's the highlight we're using for sure. That's funny. How it's so impressive to me. I'm fascinated by the idea. We talk on the podcast. You actually said this before. The interviews have gone in this weird sort of like very kind of all over the place idea. But mostly what we do is we talk to people who do shit. Like that's the right. Simplest sort of package I can wrap around it.
Yeah.
And what is interesting to me beyond a lot of all the other conversations we have is when there is that family dynamic, like that, the words are failing me right now, but that history of art. Yeah. And because that, to me, it's that knowledge-based, building on knowledge-based stuff, where you have this natural advantage. And I just wonder, even though it's that natural advantage in that area, I know it can also feel like kind of a big disadvantage. And I wonder how much of that you felt.
I think being self-aware is very important. Like we always say, you can't even say you love something or someone until you're familiar with their warts, you know, until they're kind of annoying. Like, I annoy Lee.
Right.
I know I do. And right. he's still there every single day. He's just there. He's just at the gig, even though we're like kind of annoyed with each other.
Right.
It's just been a lot of miles together. Yeah. Figurative and literal miles. Right. So music too, like it's been so good to me. And yet sometimes I know it has taken me to very dark places. Like
Talk to me about it if you don't mind.
Yeah, I just don't know if like being out until 3 a.m. is always the best thing for me.
Okay.
You know, like the nightlife is a dangerous thing sometimes. If you're doing it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you kind of forget what the sun looks like. Mm-hmm. And you forget that there are things other than people in bars on Tuesday nights.
Right.
So sometimes the people who hang out at a bar every Tuesday night are not the best people in the world. So you gotta kind of, that's why it's been very important to me to coach, or that's why teaching has been important to me. Just like sometimes after 4 days of nightlife, I just want to tuck my shirt in, teach the kids, do something that is definitely benevolent, definitely kind, and cannot be disputed.
Do you look at the nightlife side as, like, do you look at it as a dark side?
Not universally.
Okay.
Not universally, but our second record was called At Risk. And that's
gotcha.
And our third one is likely to be called Sort It Out.
That's funny.
So I think I don't think anything is very often universally one way or the other.
Okay.
I think sometimes by 4 or 5 days of tucking my shirt in and doing something benevolent, I'm like, you guys have no edge. Like, get me to the nightlife. Get me to the nightlife where I can flip out and be myself. Like,
does it feel like a balancing act to you, or is it just...
Definitely.
Yeah?
Definitely. It definitely feels like a balancing act. One I'm just trying to navigate through still. But.
Because that's such a difficult process... Can you talk to me through give me like some of the more, not spectacular is the wrong word, but the more meaningful failures along the way?
I think it kind of depends on your lens. I guess like to some, being 35 and having a gig at the Liquid Library tonight might be a failure. For some people who when they started, like when I started and I was 18, maybe people are dreaming of Madison Square Gardens, and if you're not playing Madison Square Garden, then your life is a failure. I don't identify that with myself.
I don't think those people's opinion are educated or thoughtful whatsoever.
I think they are there. I think there are still people who say to me, "How's your little band going?" I'm like, "What? Couldn't it just be my band?" Like, none of us are little.
Yeah, fair enough. You're all a bunch of fucking giants. That's hilarious. But you know what? It's funny because I never think about it that way.
Yeah.
And because most of the people that I'm around are musicians and artists and stuff, I never think about that perspective. But you're absolutely right. There is like there's a whole set of human beings that walk around going, "What the fuck are you doing?
Why are you still playing, man? Why are you still playing?" And they don't get it.
Right.
So like, nothing has been a colossal failure in my eyes, in my mind.
Right.
I feel very lucky to be surrounded with the friends that I have. I feel very lucky to have a gig at the Liquid Library tonight. I think it's going to be a killer time. Like, and the people who the naysayers don't ever get to experience how it's going to feel when we have this room jumping.
It's funny that you bring it up specifically like that, because that's been a question that I've been sort of like fighting with for a while, and it's that idea to me, and I can't figure out if I'm just a self-indulgent idiot or what it is, but to me, being in a venue and seeing musicians kind of come together and create, even if it's songs that you've heard before, or even especially when it's new original stuff, to me, there's nothing more exciting than seeing that. And I wonder, I mean, you're in the fucking venues. It's not like it's 1975 anymore, right? Like, there's not 1,000 people lining up at doors to come and see musicians play.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a dying industry? Do you think it's just part of a wave? Do you think we're in a weird area?
If it's a dying industry, I'll die right along with it.
All right, fair. Yeah.
Like, I don't think that it's a dying industry because of my own interests. So it might, like, when I'm not playing, Thursday night I went to see Josh Johnson and the Joyful Noise, and I may have had the most fun I've had in my entire life. Right. Just like watching, dancing, experiencing like this organic thing that is just right there. And that's a different bass player than last week, and he is killing it.
Yeah.
Like
that's really honestly, I'm looking for ways to really show that off, but really, for me, the major motivation behind talking with all the people in the city that we talk to is that experience at open jams in the city. Because it's just amazing to me that you can show up and exactly what you said, show up, see a group of people playing together for the first time that had no practice, just kind of got together and play a song they all kind of know, and it snaps right in, and it's incredible.
Yeah, I just can't think of it as a dying thing because it's just so much of me. Just watching music, creating music, performing, it's just so much a part of me that I can't think of it as a dying thing because it's like I say, it's too inextricably linked to who I am.
I get it.
If it goes.
But you're lucky enough you've experienced music in two really interesting places. From my perspective, Windsor is always the hub of what I think music is because of our connections, because of all the various things. We can talk about it another time. But to me, Windsor's a musical hub, but Windsor's a musical hub for musicians without an audience. You know what I mean? Where, like, the East Coast to me is the exact same thing, but with an audience that gives a shit. Is that just my inexperience, or do you find a difference between there and here?
Oh, I find it enormous.
Okay.
I find an enormous difference between there and here. But both places are gritty. It's just like, they say Nova Scotia is a have-not province, you know, because they don't get the same breaks that Ontario does from the federal government. Like, a teacher in Nova Scotia makes just about half what a teacher in Ontario makes, you know, like, a mechanic doesn't get paid as much as they do in Windsor. So there's like a grit about Nova Scotians, and there's a grit about Windsorites. I think the way they handle that grit sometimes is a bit different.
Okay.
And I'm a byproduct of that too. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that was a real Windsor way of processing that situation. Or that was like...
Do you think about it like that, in those terms?
Yeah, I have a hard time drawing the line that separates how much of me is a byproduct of being a Windsorite and how much of me is a byproduct of being a born Cape Breton.
Right.
But I think in Cape Breton, the winters are long and people come together, like kitchen parties.
Right.
It's a social uprising together. I think I've played to some very engaged Windsor crowds too, you know?
Yeah.
I don't think it's always that there's no audience.
Oh, no. And I think, I'm glossing over some shit for sure. The shows when they are really rocking here in this city are amazing. It's just, there are amazing musicians who slog it out in this city day after day to empty bars. Like, you know what I mean?
That becomes a point of pride for me too. When I see kids coming up, that's the piece of advice I give them most. I'm like, what are you gonna do when your friends are done university? Like, you're in university, you're 21. It's easy to get your friends out on a Tuesday. Right. Nobody has anything to do. There's no careers. There's no kids usually.
Right.
But in that moment, if you keep reminding yourself that even when they have careers and kids, this is important to me for these reasons. I have to keep doing this for these reasons. Sometimes I think I come and watch a musician play to an empty bar, and I'm more impressed with their performance than ever. I'm like, how did so-and-so get up? How did they get up? And then you finish killing it on a song and there's nobody clapping. I just want to get up and go crazy, because I think like that, your merit is developed in the trenches. Same with relationships. It's not how you deal with the people you care about on your good day. It's how you deal with the people you care about on your bad day that matters. So gigs, I feel, are the same way. It's easy to feel great about a good gig, but if you can still get there on a bad gig, then you're really showing your chops. Like
I said to my wife the other day, I know I'm a professional musician because I don't want to go tonight.
Yeah, we had sound problems last week, and we were playing. And I said to Lee after, I was like, well, that was not fun. And he said, if it was that fun all the time, I would have stopped a long time ago. But
speaking of sound problems and fun, that actually reminds me, the first time I ever saw you guys as a full band was on the Fork and Cork stage last year. Talk to me about that show, because I'll tell you right now, you're huffing and puffing and going, oh my God. Like you just said about watching the musician in an empty stage, that was the most impressive performance I think I've ever seen in my life.
We're pretty good at rolling with the punches. Right. Like I
Talk to the audience about it in case they didn't see it.
Okay, we were playing Fork and Cork. We had a great slot. Direct support opening for the Gin Blossoms, and the river was just packed. The riverfront was just packed. It's the kind of gig you always hope.
It's like what, 5,000 there, something like that.
Yeah, there were definitely thousands of people in front of us, and my bandmates criticized me all the time about my gear being shit and poorly taken care of. The guy who works on my guitar said, Andrew, do you spill a whole beer on your guitar every time before you start playing? It's all fair. But that day, I practiced our whole set in my living room in the afternoon, checking my gear, everything's fine. We get up to play one of the biggest gigs we've ever played, start the song, and my amp blows up. My amp blew up. It just stopped working. But over years of playing to different venues and breaking strings and equipment failures, I was ready. We were ready. Yeah. We were ready to get through it. And more people have said man, watch you guys handle that was insane. We were still funny. Our banter is pretty good with all of these miles and inside jokes between us. So we can make lemonade. Right? We can make lemonade usually, and we found our way around it.
Oh my God, I'll tell you, because I watch, because you're sort of letting it go where, your amp blew up. The amp blew up, and every single song you thought it was fixed. And then you'd start the next song, and it would be fucked again.
Yeah, and then it started smoking.
That's right.
At one point, it was smoking, and that's when Chris, I think he was worried that the stage was going to catch on fire. Right. He came in with somebody else's amp from backstage, swapped it out, and then on and on we went. And more people have said, whoa, there's one guy, just a quick story. There's one guy who used to work at the Walkerville Tavern, and we used to play there. And he said, man, watching you and Lee break a string was my favorite part about watching you guys play. And I laughed. I was like, It's not our music. It's like he's like, you just change strings so effortlessly. Like if I break a string, I will be up and running before Lee has done this song that covers. You know?
That's great.
Lee will be too. We're pretty good at rolling with the punches, and that is only through running into
sheer experience, right? How do we cover this hole?
Running into speed bumps. But people, the boys and I talk about it all the time. It's become kind of something that they're like, no matter what you throw these guys, they'll be ready for it. And Chris gave us a great gig opening for Big Wreck the next year.
Right.
And I was like, man, Big Wreck. Our band was a big wreck the last time you gave us this opportunity. He's like, but you guys always get through it. You always deliver. So
I think that's far more important than anything else. As a matter of fact, when you watch somebody like you playing on a show like that and watching it all go wrong and having the entire fucking audience go, yeah, that must have sucked for you, but it was great for us. Like, because I don't think anybody in that crowd sat back and went, well, these fucking assholes are clearly unprepared. Nobody thought that for a second.
I think we kind of ended up coming off more professional, more professional because of the curveball we were thrown. But like maybe
it's funny because those are the moments you need, right? Like you need one of those moments where everybody can see, oh no, these guys actually like put the fucking work in, because otherwise it just looks easy.
Yeah, I mean, my buddy used to call it corpsing, right? One of my biggest influences when I was starting, Tony Ronalds in Halifax, said, like, just never corpse. Something goes wrong on stage, the worst thing you can do is freeze up and die. Right. So don't ever. And then it's like, okay, don't ever corpse. You're an entertainer. Sure, you're an artist and you want your feelings to be expressed, but I would have just started juggling.
Yeah, exactly.
My guitar would have 3 tennis balls. Give me 3 tennis.
Yeah. Time to put on a show, motherfucker.
Like, I can do this. Like,
that's hilarious. That's where do you think the show? Well, you said this before from your brother, but like that because you just said it. If everything in that room would have blown up, you would have started juggling. I've been in rooms where everything blew up. Actually, we talked about it when Blair Bundy was on. I played an entire show where we didn't have a PA. But I was still singing. Like over top of like the loud guitars and stuff, just because you've got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
For you, but like for me, I've always been fascinated with like performance art and the fucking assholes that stand out like statues for hours on end, and like, you know, like just where the mindset from all of that stuff comes from. Where do you think you got that desire to be not just a writer, not just a musician, but a performer?
Probably from being an attention-starved youngest sibling. But the grit part of it is definitely from growing up here on the west side of Windsor. Like, just like, if this is important to you, get it. And nobody else is going to get it. Nobody else is going to get it for you. And you can do this. You can do this. You can do this. That's the other side of that toughness, which doesn't always translate perfectly or comfortably in other situations. It's just also, although there's a saying in Cape Breton, you can always tell them MacLeod, but you can't tell them much. And I think for better or worse, that's kind of true for me. And sometimes people are really appreciative that I can like just lock in and buckle down and do what I have to do because I've decided it's important to me. Yeah. And because I've decided that standing up for so-and-so is important to me. That's why I do it, you know? But the performance thing is just like hours and hours and hours and hours. And when Lee and I have a crappy gig, the boys and I have a crappy gig, we always can remember one that went worse. Right. You know, because there's just been so many of them over the years. You play 3-4 times a week for 15 years. 17 years now, I guess. Jesus. Your stage legs. My stage legs are pretty strong.
Yeah, man.
And I'm ready. I'm ready for everything to go wrong. should it happen?
Man, I'm so glad we finally got a chance to sit down and talk like this. If you guys have not had the pleasure of getting out to see a Years of Ernest show, get your asses out there and see it. Go click on the video that we shot with you guys. I can't wait to see what comes of this next album, dude.
I appreciate what you do so much, brother.
Thanks,
I really do, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Check it out.
See you. All right, folks, that'll do it for this episode of the AVB Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to go down and click on the subscribe button to make sure that you can continue seeing our episodes as we put them out. We do a lot of videos, and there's a couple of them here that we hope you'll enjoy. There's one up there that we think you might like, and of course, there's one of our playlists down there for you. Make sure you say hello to some of our sponsors in the links down below while you're there, and of course, you can find links there to today's guest and all of our other social media. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you next time.